Welcome to Salt of the Earth Farm Stories, where the heart of farming comes alive. From the soil that nurtures our crops to the animals that roam our pastures, we'll explore the beauty and challenges of life on the farm. So grab your boots as we celebrate the stories that connect us to the land and each other.
There's a bigger thing, like nearly everything that you touch at some point has had a farmer's involvement at the first point. Not at some point, the origin point. Alpacas!
Welcome back and buckle up because today's episode is an absolute cracker. We're heading to Quentin Park Alpacas and Studio Gallery, a farm in Peterborough, South Australia, with the one and only Amee Dennis, where alpacas roam, creativity thrives, and laughter is never far away. This episode heats up early as we dive into Amee's world, her bustling alpaca farm and fibre shop, where each alpaca has a name, a personality, and sometimes a bit of drama. And we meet Benjamin Bowe, who's only just starting to speak to Amee after a little situation involving, well, castration. But it's not all alpaca gossip. Amee is on a mission to help our city friends reconnect with where their food and fibre comes from, and to bring people closer to the land through real, hands-on experiences, to the surprisingly delicate art of an alpaca Medi Pedy, and even dodging danger in a commercial dryer. This episode is full of laughs, learning, and those little farm moments that stay with you. It's all about creativity, sustainability, and heart. So grab a cuppa, settle in, and enjoy part A of this warm, woolly, and wonderfully real conversation with Amee Dennis. Let's get into it. Hello, Amee.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me, Amee.
No, thanks for coming to the farm.
Can you tell me where are we right now and what is this place called?
So it's called Quentin Park Alpacas and Studio Gallery, and we're in Peterborough, South Australia.
And where's Peterborough roughly?
Kind of, well, halfway between Adelaide and Broken Hill. Peterborough is really the crossroads. So whether New South Wales, South Australia, Northern Territory, WA, if you're kind of traversing any of those directions, you essentially come through Peterborough. So it's really the centre of the universe.
It is. Now, Quentin Park, what makes it so special?
What makes it super special is that we've got a pretty fabulous team here and some creatures that are not your typical everyday farm animals, really.
And this team, they've generally got 4 legs.
Most of them have got 4 legs. We don't actually have too many 2-legged creatures on the farm or team members, but most of our team has all got 4 legs and have all got a very special kind of purpose and place and reason and outcomes, really.
I've just had an hour or so walking around your farm with you. You love animals, don't you?
I do. Alpacas in particular, yes. But animals in general, I think that there's so much that we as humans can learn from them if we take the time to kind of take it in, and, somebody's got to love them. So somebody may as well be me, really,
How many alpacas have we got here?
At the moment, we've got just over 70 alpacas.
And you've got the boys in one paddock and the girls in another?
Yes.
Is that so there's no shenanigans going on?
So yes, alpaca's anatomy is quite different. And the reason why you need to have them separated, so even when they're castrated males, you actually can't run them with the females. So penises in an alpaca go backwards. They actually face backwards.
What?
So I was showing you the poo pile. So alpacas wee and poo all in one spot. They have a toilet. That's one of their little quirky things. So if one of the boy alpacas goes up to the wee pile, he will spread his legs and wee backwards like a girl. So you, as a person that doesn't know a lot about alpacas, wouldn't be able to tell me whether it was a boy or a girl. And they're not like rams and bulls and things where it all just kind of hangs out. Their testes are like 2 little marbles tucked right up underneath their tail. So unless they lift their tail, you're not going to see them at all, and they wee backwards. So
that wasn't just because it was cold.
No, that's not because it was cold. It's because it's just how they are. So when for alpacas to mate, because of that, the females actually have to physically submit to the male to mate. So she will sit down for him. he will position himself in behind her, kneel in behind her, put his hands on her back and whisper sweet nothings in her ear for about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
And by sweet nothings, I mean grunting, gurgling, ogling. It's full on, especially if you've got a couple of matings happening at the same time and it's in surround sound. Like you actually have to walk away from that. It's really noisy. Our females will submit to the male when they're cycling and they're happy to mate. And in females, that's every 2 weeks all year round. So she will only submit when she's cycling. The alpaca's penises have got a barb on them and they deposit into the cervix. So 80% of first matings for alpacas are successful because she will submit if she's cycling and he's depositing directly into her cervix. So generally you can mate your alpacas, give them one shot every year and then put them out to pasture and you're 80% chance of having babies out of them. So because of that, even if you have a wether, so a castrated male in alpacas is still called a wether, like in sheep, he loses the ability to get her pregnant, but he doesn't lose the desire to want to do the deed. So even if you have a weathered alpaca in with the females, he will try and mate her. She will let that happen and submit to him because she wants to have a baby and wants to get pregnant. But then he will continuously do that. She doesn't get pregnant. He's got a barb inside of her cervix every time. So they can actually cause a lot of internal damage and infection in the females. And if they're already pregnant, they will tend to fight the boys off. But if they get to the point where they're like, oh, for fuck's sake, just get it over with and sit down and submit to him, he's got a barb in her cervix and he can cause miscarriages. So it's kind of like with alpacas, whether you either need to have boys or girls, and if you have boys and girls, then you need to have them separated. The one chance a boy's got is every couple of weeks when you choose the females. And with alpacas, we do what we call hand mating. So it's not like with the sheep and the cattle where you just put him out to pasture and just let him have a go. It's quite selective, and for us as well, it's quite selective about what we're trying to do with colours for our products. So we'll go this year, we're going to mate these 4 or 5 girls with this particular boy because we're hoping that we might be able to throw some of this colour. Next year, or and then we might go, this boy is going to go with these few girls. So we'll put them into small groups for a couple of weeks out together
to get them to know each other. And
yeah, exactly. And because they cycle every 2 weeks, we tend to put them out for about 3 or 4 weeks because hopefully in that time she's cycled at least twice. So we've given him kind of 2 opportunities to get her pregnant. And then we take them out. Alpacas know, though, from one cycle to the next if they're pregnant. So without having to preg test them, one way you do that is by what we call a spit off. So you can mate them, and then in 2 weeks' time, you can put that same boy back in near that same girl. If she submits to him, she's not pregnant. But if she bucks and bites and spits and kicks and carries on, you can pretty much go, I'll put you in the maternity ward and see you in 12 months.
Right. And that can last for 20 minutes?
Yes.
Wow.
See,
I should be saying, is that all?
Is that all? And I'm thinking, like how I was saying that there's a lot of things that people can learn from alpacas. That's potentially one.
You've heated this episode up right at the start. But a sheep would only mate for like seconds.
And the same with bulls, but alpacas, it just goes on and on. And like I said, if you bring them in and you're doing a couple of mating groups in like the sheep yards or something at a time, and you've got 2 or 3 of them going on in stereo, like you literally have to walk away. It gets a little bit much.
Oh, right. Now, tell me about your mission, Aimee.
My farms have got bigger, families have got smaller. The number of families on farms has got smaller. And we have this whole nearly 2 generations now that don't have country cousins. We had country cousins. So if you weren't on the farm, then you had a country cousin. So every school holidays, you went on the bus on Friday afternoon home with that cousin and you went back to school, or your friend or whoever it was. And then you spent the couple of weeks on the farm helping and working and, doing all of those things and learning all of that stuff. Where things come from, how things work, what all of that stuff means. And we now have nearly 2 generations that have never had that. You know, we've had school groups come out to the farm, and the first school group I ever had, I was like, right, so who's never been to a farm? Asked the question the wrong way around. The question was actually how many people had been to a farm, because that was the smaller number. So I really, like, for me, it was, you know, like, how do we bring people back to the farm? How do we give them the opportunity to connect? How do we give people the opportunity to connect to the land in all of its glory and then in all of its misery at the same time? You know, how that seasonality actually works when it's not just on the TV, how that connection works, because even if you can't connect to a human, there is still this amazing connection that you can have with an animal. So for me, it was so much about that. How do we bring people back to the farm? How do we tell our story? How do farmers tell their stories better? How do we kind of reduce that disconnect to somebody sitting in a cubicle that's making a red tape decision for us?
That's right.
When they've never actually been on the farm or have any idea what the concept is that you're kind of talking about. So how do we do that? That was kind of one thing. And the other part that is becoming increasingly more a focus is about, you know, we're having a lot of conversations about food security, and that's incredibly important. And I'm really pleased that that's happening, and that there's some awareness happening in cities and with people that have a disconnect with properties and where their food comes from, about some of that awareness. I think that's really important. But there's actually a bigger conversation. It's not just food, like there's product.
Yeah.
So we've started the conversation about food security. It's growing. There's a kind of a trend. There's awareness around paddock to plate. There's an awareness around where things come from, how it's grown, whether it's sustainable, like all of those things. But there's actually a bigger piece. There's another conversation that we're not yet having. So for me, that's kind of my focus, is how we actually bring some awareness to that, as well as just bring that connection back.
Well, thank you, because I didn't ever have that thought of there's less kids out there having that connection to farm. But I think part of this podcast series that I'm doing is trying to help our city folk have that connection to our Australian farmers who are doing incredible things. You talked about paddock to plate. I've heard you say paddock to product. Can you tell me a bit about that?
So it's not just about what is on your plate. There are things. So, you know, I make products, but it's jewelry and accessories and clothing and homewares. That's a thing that is being produced from the paddock. The grazing board that you've got on the table, or the table that you're sitting at, or the cotton shirt that you're wearing, or the silk thing that you're wearing,
or the earrings,
or the, you know, the beanie, the knitted beanie, all of that stuff came from a farmer. At some point, somebody grew the raw material to produce that raw material for it to then be turned into the thing that you're wearing, sitting on, sitting at. There's a bigger thing. Like nearly everything that you touch at some point has had a farmer's involvement at the first point, not at some point. The origin point is where that came from and where the farmer fits in. What's happened to that, you know, is different. We are really focusing on that, you know, raw material. One example that I've got is like in that disconnect. So we were, you know, the things like wanting to get like the product of Australia. In order to do that, we needed to be able to produce the invoices for where we had purchased our materials that we were making our products from. Now, there's not a tick box in the system that says that you produced the raw material yourself.
Yeah, right.
So there's this huge disconnect about actually realizing where the raw materials for every single thing you touch come from.
So we want more of this traceability.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've got to be more transparent, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, you know, I think, you know, farmers have got better at telling their stories, you know, for a long time with media perception and that the farmers are just the devil. And so, you know, a lot of us just went, well, we're just not going to say anything then because it's going to get taken the wrong way. And I think there's some really cool stuff that's happening with technological change and the visibility. So, like we talk about, generations and I'll kind of specifically talk about the women. So some of those women that were behind those early pioneers had really hard lives, and they did some really incredible things. And we often tell the stories about the pioneer, but not about the woman who actually made all of that stuff work. And women have kind of, farming women do this incredible amount of work, and they've done that for generations. But then they've also done, the raising kids and working at home and all of these additional things as well. And I think that now with things like podcasts, with YouTube, with like this technological change, our generation is actually starting to be able to tell the stories of our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, and kind of actually expand that story and bring some awareness to that and some transparency to how things have kind of moved and changed over generations, and maybe what hasn't changed, what still is the same in some really good ways a lot of the time as well. So I think that's something that's been quite interesting, that kind of that shift in the ability to tell our stories, and I just think that that's so important.
Amazing. Well said. Yeah, there's so many unsung heroes out there that we need to hear about.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to Quentin Park.
Yes.
So you've got a farm shop here and you sell products.
I do.
What are some of these products and where does that come from?
It comes from, fibre. So with alpacas, we call it fibre. Wool is actually a term that is reserved for sheep.
Sheep only,
yes,
is it? Have I used the word wool already today?
No, you haven't.
I probably have.
I'm just kind of putting it out there. It is a thing. So fibre, for alpacas, it's fibre. Alpacas need to be shorn every year, just like you shear a sheep. And there's so many reasons behind that. One is it gives you a raw material, but the second is for their health. So if you, alpacas don't molt, just like sheep, most sheep don't molt. Their fibre gets really heavy, it gets really hot, and it's not healthy for them. So to keep your animal healthy, you actually need to remove those kilos from them every year, take the weight off them, give them a chance to cool down, and then keep them healthy. So, you've got less infections, you've got less diseases, you've got less illnesses, you've got, there's so many things that are associated with that.
And what time of the year do you shear?
I shear in late October, early November. So essentially we're shearing coming into summer. Take your winter coat off, put you back in your singlet for the summer months. So alpacas are, they come from South America originally. They're high altitude, cold climate animals.
Right.
So alpacas don't...
Peru, weren't they?
Yeah, from Peru. So they don't love the heat. They actually are a cold climate animal. So, we help them out coming into our summer where it gets quite hot by taking that woolen coat off of them at that point. So for alpacas, it's shearing once a year. They don't need, like sheep need crutching generally through the year. Alpacas are very clean at the back end. There's actually no fibre like down behind on the backs of their legs. So it's just shearing once a year. But with alpacas, shearing is everything all in one. It's their haircut, Medi Pedy, health check, everything in one go.
What's the Medi Pedy?
The Medi Pedy. So they're toenails. So alpacas are padded feet with two toes. So if you think about like the heel of your hand or a dog pad, that's what an alpaca's foot feels like, the base of their feet. And they've got two toenails. Those toenails grow like our toenails, like human toenails. So every year when we're shearing them, they get a haircut, but we also trim their toenails, give them a clean up, we check their eyes and teeth, we do any kind of vaccinations, we do a vitamin shot with them at that point. Everything that we need to do with them, we do at that one point because we restrain them to shear them. So that we do everything. So like a sheep shearer would get through 100 or 150 sheep in a day, one shearer. One alpaca takes us about 15 minutes. So for us, even just with 70, we're looking at, 2.5 days shearing, because we're doing like a whole lot of stuff in one go.
Can you set the scene? They're standing up, and who comes in to shear them? Is it someone that's used to shearing sheep?
No.
Or is it you?
No, sheep shearers don't love shearing alpacas. When we first started with alpacas, we shore our own, and we shore them like you'd shear a sheep, with an extra person holding that very long neck, basically kind of controlling that. You essentially, I'm going to call it rotisserie style. So you shear alpacas rotisserie style. So the shearer that we have specializes in alpacas, and he's brilliant because he has a table. So we don't even have to do it on the ground now, which is really nice. Our alpacas are so incredibly handled. They're so used to us and to people that they know that shearing is a good day. So ours come into the shed and they literally line up at the gate to be the next one in. So you grab one, bring it into the table, and then with two of us, we lift it up onto the table and we restrain their back legs and their front legs.
And they're okay with that?
And they're okay with that. So they're up on the table, front feet go in one direction, back feet go in the other, and we tie their feet. So then we've got a nice straight line. So alpaca's skin is very soft and very thin. And if you cut an alpaca shearing like you cut a sheep shearing, you would risk not having an alpaca. So if we have them restrained, so they're stretched out, front feet out one way, back feet out the other, it means you've got no creases in their bodies. You've got a nice smooth surface. So we shear one side of them, and then once we've shorn that side, we roll them and shear the second side. So while the shearer is shearing, one of us is going around, because you've got 4 feet tied up waiting for you. You can do anything with their feet, check their feet, clip their toenails, do all of that. Check their eyes and teeth. I feel bellies, check udders. Are they still feeding their babies? Are they not? All of that kind of stuff as well. You do all of that. If we shear them and there's a lump or a bump or like they might have a seed and then there's a little pussy thing, the shearers will always let us have a minute and just treat anything that, once the wool has come off or the fibre has come off, we'll treat anything that kind of pops up that we kind of see then, and then let them go. When we were out in the paddock earlier, Benjamin Bow gave me a kiss.
Yes.
Benjamin Bow's hilarious. So the first time we ever shore him, he was a rescue and he hadn't been shorn before. So we shore him and we castrated him at the same time. So he was not impressed. The next year,
fair enough.
Yeah, the next year that we went to shear him, wheeled like a little. So he's one of the quietest alpacas. He came up to give me a kiss in the paddock.
There's a photo for our listeners on Facebook.
Yeah,
of that kiss.
of that. So he'll come up and whenever we are doing anything, he's at the fence watching. And if you're in the paddock and he's in that paddock, he will be over your shoulder having a look at what you're doing. He wants to know what's going on all the time. So he is the squealer. So he will stand at the gate waiting to line up, and you'll hear him talking to the others like, "It's okay, boys, you'll be fine." He gets on the table and he squeals like a cut pig the whole time. And then you let him go, but then he'll go out the back. And then every time we get close to finishing shearing one, he'll actually come back around into the shed, wait for them to come off the table, and then walk them back out.
Really?
But he's the one that squealed like
Is he making sure they're okay?
Or making sure that they're okay, and then showing, "Okay, now you can come with me. Like, I've got all of this worked out."
Yeah.
Like, really, mate? Did you hear yourself? But the first time that we shore him, he didn't speak to me for weeks, weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'd go out, "Hey, Benjamin," and he'd like look at me across the fence and then go in the other direction. Each time we've shorn him now, the time that he hasn't spoken to me has got shorter and shorter. And one day I'm sure he'll realise that he can't get castrated a second time and we'll be fine. But the shearing, it's a process. Yeah. But essentially while the shearer is shearing, we have collected the wool, and because we are processing all of our own fibre, we bag the wool as we go. And because it's not a slow process, but it's a steady process, we've got time to do that. So I'll bag the wool, and then name actually goes onto the bag. Cool. Because I know all of their names, and then I know all of their colors. So if I'm going out to the shed because I need a bag of fawn or a bag of brown, then I just go through the bags looking at the names, and I know, oh, Bobby's brown. Oh, no, I'll take Jasper's as well because he's a lighter color, and it'll give me 2 different browns for this, you know, to make 2 different browns in this product. So, you know, like we do it that way. Whereas if we were selling our wool commercially, we'd be, you know, bagging white and black, and we'd be having, you know, we'd be looking at staple lengths, we'd be looking at microns, we'd be looking at all of that. Whereas for me, I don't know anything about any of that, because for me it doesn't matter. Because we're processing our own fiber, making our own products. I don't care what any of that is, we can use it anyway.
So is this part of this transparency and traceability that you were talking about? You know, so if people were to buy some flowers or some earrings, they're going to know that that's from Benjamin or not? Yeah. So some of it, we like, a lot of times we'll just, with things like the flowers, we'll just go through and pick out bags that we know are different colors, so that you can buy a bunch of 10 alpaca flowers and have 10 different colors in that bunch, because every animal is a variation of a shade. So we're always kind of working in multiple bags. But we have a number of times, like there was a gentleman that bought a scarf this morning, and he was looking at one of the fawn colored ones, and I went, oh no, feel this one, it's softer, this is from Alexandra. And he went, right, okay. So he put that on and went, oh, okay. And then met her. Perfect.
So there's some of that. So, you know, particularly with people's favorites, you know, the ones that are always the favorite, I tend to always make sure that, like, though there's this set of earrings, and on the back of the card will be the name, so that we know that those ones have come from those. So if you're looking for something specific rather than just, oh, that's a pretty color, then we can pull that out.
And there's that connection happening again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done. So what happens then?
Shorn them.
You've shorn them. What happens to the product?
Yep.
It's in bags.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend countless hours
yes.
going through that little machine before. Yes. What's that called?
So we have a wool carder. The most important part of the process, I guess, is carding wool. And it doesn't matter what kind of wool you have, the process is generally you card it. So it's about making the strands of fibre run in the same direction. It's just easier to work with. So as you card the wool, you're essentially just brushing it.
And so this carder is 2 spindles with brushes on it, and it gets fed through there, putting all the fibres into one straight line.
Yep. So as you feed through the bottom, the small drum, it then rolls up onto the big drum, and then you can then take it off the big drum, and then that gives you what's called a bat. So it means then that all of those little strands of fibre are running in the same direction. We card raw fibre. We don't wash our fibre first. And part of the reason for that is alpacas don't have lanolin in their fibre. So we don't actually need to wash or chemically strip the oil from our fibre in order for us to work with it. We can literally work with it from their backs, coming off their backs. So the reason why we card it is, one, it puts all the fibre in the same direction, so it makes it easier for us to work with as a product, but it also then helps get rid of some of the green matter.
Yeah.
You know, some of the bindies, some of the hay, some of the dust, you know, so it's probably the dirtiest part of the whole process, because as you're kind of winding it through and you're brushing it, if you lift up that wool carder, there's a pile of stuff underneath it that's come out of the fibre.
That surprises me, what I've seen today. It's all so clean.
I know, it is.
And the other part surprised me, it's so strong. Once it's all binded together, it is really strong.
Yes.
And warm.
And warm. So fun facts, alpaca fibre is lighter than sheep's wool because it's hollow, but it's also warmer. So the fibre itself is hollow, so it's lighter. And do you remember when your grandmother knitted you that woolen jumper and it was itchy as all hell, and your mum made you wear it and you just didn't like it without wearing something else underneath it? Sheep's wool has got barbs on it. So each individual little kind of strand of wool has got barbs on it. And that's what gives it that like itchy factor. Whereas alpaca fibre has a very small number of barbs. So a lot of people that are allergic to sheep's wool, or it makes them really itchy, or they just don't like, it's like the ick factor, can wear alpaca because it doesn't have the barb, and it also doesn't have the chemical process to strip the oil in order for them to be able to wear it or use it. So
I'm learning stacks here.
yeah, yeah. So alpaca, fiber is essentially considered an incredibly, one, it's hypoallergenic. Two, it is a natural fire retardant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. And then thirdly, because of the animals themselves, it's an incredibly sustainable fiber. So I talked about their soft padded feet, which means they're very gentle in the landscape. So they've got bottom teeth but no top ones, which means they are also very conservative grazers. They're lawn mowers. Right in the back, they've got the big grinders because they're grass eaters and they need to be able to grind it down. But this is just a hard palate across the front of their mouths, and there's no teeth. Their lip has got a split in it, and their lip wiggles as they eat, which you felt when we were out hand feeding them. They're very easy on the landscape. They literally just trim. They don't pull out the roots. They don't they can't eat the main kind of tap part of the plant. They literally can't, they physically can't. They just trim. They lawn mow, and they're very gentle in the landscape. They only eat a really small percentage of their body weight, a lot less than what sheep and cattle need. So they don't need as much feed. You don't need to chemically strip the fiber in order to use it. And they come in all of these incredible, beautiful colors. So you can actually get a product that is come from the paddock that has got no chemical processing involved in it whatsoever. So you've got this incredibly natural product from an animal that is naturally really gentle in the landscape.
Wow. Just going back to their eating style, it's an interesting style. It's sort of like they're in a figure eight.
Yeah. Yes.
Moving their jaw to the
yeah,
each
they
side.
do.
And now to the product, it goes through a carding machine.
Yep.
And then you can do all sorts of things with it
Yes.
from there. Tell me about some of the products you've got.
Most people think that the main kind of what you do with wool generally is you spin it and then you do something with the skeins of wool with the fiber. I don't. I'm a really terrible spinner, and if you ask my grandmother, I'm a really atrocious knitter, even though she's tried to teach me 100 times over my lifetime. That's not my happy place. I felt. So felting is about creating a material by actually binding the strands of fiber together, by making them connect and join and become one piece. I use a method called wet felting, so that you can dry needle felt, and people make incredible paintings and things out of needle felting. I wet felt, so it takes hot water, a little bit of dishwashing liquid, and a whole lot of elbow grease.
And time.
And time. And that's kind of it. It's essentially really most of felting is the physical labor in it in order to make it connect together. So what you're trying to do is get all of those individual strands of fiber to then connect together in a different way. So you can do that by laying it out flat on a table and making big pieces, which is how we do things like scarves. I showed you bags in the shop, like clutches. So there's no stitching, no sewing, no anything. It's actually just the way that we've felted the fiber to be able to make it so that it has a pocket on the inside.
So that clutch didn't have any stitching in it?
No, there's no stitching.
My God.
Nothing.
And to our listeners, get onto some of this product. It is awesome, really. Yeah.
So, none of that has got stitching in it. And then things like our signature item is the alpaca flowers. So, everlasting flowers that are made in all of these beautiful natural colors. For the listeners, think belly buttons.
Yep.
So long stem with a round kind of top those tops are all made from the felted alpaca fibre, and it's the 100% natural fibre. There is nothing else inside of that apart from some hot water and some elbow grease. And then it's on a rusty wire stem. And those rusty wire stems is, like you've just come to our fixer-upper farm, and, the new fencing, and then all of the rolls of the old fencing that we took down, all of those rolls of old fencing are flower stems.
And they're getting used again.
And they're getting used again in a totally different way. So that's our kind of signature item, but then we can use balls of different sizes to make earrings and necklaces and key rings. And when I first started to make products, I had a woman get in touch with me and goes, can you make dryer balls? And I went,
what are they?
What on earth is a dryer ball? So I Googled it, of course, and went, okay, this is a thing. So they are balls of fibre that go into your dryer. And alpaca dryer balls, they're 100% natural fibre. Alpaca fibre wicks moisture. And what they do is they tumble around with your washing in the dryer, and it keeps gaps. So they keeps them aerated, and it reduces the drying time.
How clever.
And if you're really clever and you want to, you put like a couple of drops of essential oil, particularly if you're doing sheets and towels and stuff, and make everything smell nice. And I said to this woman, I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And, and I was Googling it, and it was like an American or, a European. And I was like, are you sure? And she actually messaged me back with a photograph of her laundry with her kid with a set of dryer balls, going, I understand for you that live in the country that have space and sunlight, that you might not have need for a dryer. But us city folk in an apartment in the city use our dryer every single day. And you can buy disposable dryer sheets, or you can buy plastic balls, which are putting the plastics back into your clothing, which you're then wearing and inhaling and everything else. She goes, so we're always looking for a more natural product. And I went, okay. And then you can buy merino wool dryer balls, but they've been through a chemical process.
Yeah. So this is working.
This is what, and I went, right. So
balls.
I was like, if I make a set of dryer balls, can I send them to you? But my funny story is, I made these dryer balls, and I wasn't actually sure whether they'd survive in a dryer because I didn't own a dryer. So I drove into town and I put coins in the commercial machine in the laundromat, and I pressed the button and ran out the door because I wasn't actually sure whether they were just going to fall apart inside this dryer, or the dryer was just going to blow up, or what was kind of going to happen. But then I kind of got to the end of the cycle and they were still in one piece, and I went, okay, maybe I can do this. So yeah, it's one of those products that is just like a random kind of thing, but is just one of the staples that sell a lot into Queensland coming into the summer, which is their wet season, where they use their dryer more, and then into Victoria and New South Wales in the colder months, because that's when they use their dryer more. So it's really bizarre, but it was one of those ways that people were looking for a natural product into that market, and we were able to come up with a solution.
Well, that's good, Amee. There was no fire brigade coming to the laundromat.
No, there wasn't. It was great, and it didn't blow up, and I didn't cause any kind of insurance claim, so I was really happy. And I've had people come back and go, or like I'll put up a post on Facebook and somebody will write a comment going, I bought dryer balls, 4 years ago when you first started, and they're still going strong.
Serious.
Or, and then I've had other people send me an email or send me a message going, I lost one of my dryer balls to the new puppy, and it's the only toy they haven't destroyed. Like, is there any chance that I can I buy another set of dryer balls so that I can put one back in my dryer for the set, but then have a couple of spare ones for the puppy? And I go, yeah, no worries. I'll do you some coloured ones for the puppy, and one proper dryer ball size one for you to go back into your set. So yeah, they've been good fun.
Well, my partner Leona, she's over in your shop at the moment, so I hope she's buying some at the moment. What's your favourite product, mate?
I really love the flowers. I do really like the alpaca flowers, and just what they represent and what we've been able to do with them. So, we can make all of these really beautiful arrangements. Like, I'll find some little vases or some random bottles or some, something, and you can kind of do something really pretty. But we have sent flowers all over the world for all kinds of reasons. You know, we sent one lot to Canada from a gentleman that got in contact with me because his daughter is at university over there and she was graduating, and he wanted to be able to send her something that was Australian that was going to last her forever. Like, she can literally have this bunch of flowers for the rest of her life that symbolizes, one, that gift from her dad, but two, the graduation from what she was studying. We've had other people get in contact that have put together a really special bunch of flowers for things like funerals with colors based on children or members of family, or bunch sizes based on that, because again, it's something that they're going to have forever. So the fact that we've been able to be part of these really beautiful occasions or really sad occasions and then made that special, for me, that's really important.
Yeah, that's nice. And that's moving for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice one, Aimee. And it's everlasting. You know, it's a product, it's not a bunch of flowers that's going to be thrown out in a week.
No, that's it. And, you know, that's one of the kind of the challenges trying to market it is, you know, like it's the same price as a traditional bunch of flowers, if not less. And it's something that you can have forever. And if it gets a little bit dusty, wash it. If you want it to smell nice, put some essential oil on it. If you don't like that smell anymore, give it a little wash and then put something else on it. So it really is kind of one of those things that, like, you can be in any space at any time and really for any kind of occasion. Yeah, for us, that's been something that's been really special.
Have you got a favourite memory from a customer that you've given them some flowers or something, that whether it be a celebration or a funeral or a party?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've done lots of birthdays and, you know, baby births.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been really fun. But I think the one that always sticks with me is this one that the dad got in touch to send this beautiful kind of arrangement that he'd organised for his daughter in Canada. I think like that was just something that was really kind of special that stuck with me.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that's probably one of my favourites.
You're very creative, Aimee.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yes, some days.
Aimee, you're also experimenting a little bit with lavender and sunflowers.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
We were reading some stuff over the weekend about enterprise stacking. It was a new term that I've only just learned in the last 48 hours. And I kind of went, oh, I think that's what we do, without actually realising that we do it. I've always loved lavenders. And before I started with alpacas, I was trialling lavenders and failed miserably. It was not the thing that I was able to do. So I'm trying it again, Darren, because, you know, like, why not? I really like lavender. And again, for us, it's about bringing people back to the farm. So how do we encourage people to come? And then if you have a look then at the business side of it, so having a look at, you know, like the tourism business perspective, then our region, the quieter months of the summer. So you generally have this kind of traffic flow through, you know, March, April, May through until October, November. How do you drive traffic to your business during the low season? And you plant things that are going to flower in the low season, hoping that might kind of draw a little bit. So it's kind of twofold. One is, you know, I wanted that connection. Lavender is something that people know. They know the smell of, they know how it kind of works. They've got a memory connected to it in some kind of way, whether it's good or it's bad. My mother hates it, whereas, you know, most other people that I know love it. You know, they've got a connection with lavender in some way. For us, it's about giving people an experience and a connection. A lot of lavender farms, big lavender farms, you can't pick it. You can't cut it because they need every part, because the way that they generate an income is through a product that they're making from either the oil or the flowers. I don't necessarily want to do that. I want people to experience the process of going through and cutting a bunch.
That connection thing again.
Connection and how that kind of feels. You know, ultimately for me, most things that I'm planting or trialing are edible in some way. So, you know, like lavender is a part of that. How can we use that in products? How can we, you know, have that as a value add? How can we incorporate that into food? The additional experience, the taste on top of smelling, touching, hearing, you know, like all of those things. How do you add that other sense in there? So there's that part. So we're trialing We've got 7 different types of lavender planted currently. I'm hoping that we end up with something in those different varieties that flowers all year round, so that we can run that opportunity and that experience for people all year round. We couldn't afford to go and buy 10,000 lavender plants straight up. So we'd made all of these lines, all of these rows. I got drip-a-line from a winery that was pulling out all of its vines, and it just basically they had it as rubbish, so I went and picked it all up to recycle it all, so we could put in water lines, we could do all of that kind of stuff. So then we had hundreds of meters of lines, and we had 100 meters of lavender. And it was like, well, what are we going to do with the rest of that? And sunflowers are really fun, so we kind of went, well, let's just plant sunflowers and see what happens. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, the worst case scenario is the cows will eat it.
Yeah.
We might end up with some seed that we can either sell or have as bird seed, or we use to plant next year. But it just gives us a way to, so 1 was to trial it, 2, it was to fill the space. But 3, it was also for us from the business side of it about starting the conversation that that's something that we were doing, like watch this space, because, we're doing these experiences and we want to be able to do them. And we had a lot of people buy the experience for somebody, like come and pick your own sunflower experience as Christmas gifts.
There you go.
And then they came out through the summer and walked down the rows and picked the sunflowers that they liked the best and then took them home.
When people come out here, it's a real experience, isn't it? Like they are feeling all their senses.
Yes.
You said before there's the seeing, the touching, the smelling, the feeling. There was sound.
Yeah, yes.
We walked through the little amphitheatre there.
Yeah, everything. And that's what we want it to be.
And that's a wrap for Part A with Amee Dennis. How good was that? From alpaca drama to creative fibre magic. There's so much love. But we're not done yet. Part B is where things really get wild. We're talking teenage camels, a lunch-stealing pig named Dolly, and some truly unexpected farmyard confessions. Plus, Aimee shares how alpacas are making a powerful impact in the disability community. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. And please follow Salt of the Earth Farm Stories on social media. In the meantime, keep your hands dirty and your spirits high.